Now, a senior delegation from the Ford Foundation, New York, is in the country to mark the 60th year since the Foundation's first grant in South Africa and the 20th anniversary of its Southern African office based in Johannesburg. They will hold a series of seminars, events and meetings focused on achieving the full promise of democracy. The global president of the Foundation, Darren Walker, joins us this morning on Morning Live. Darren, welcome. It's so lovely to have you here on Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne. I'm happy to be with you.
Yeah, 1953. This was the very first time that the Ford Foundation granted something to South Africa. What was it? What was it for? Do you remember?
It was a grant to bring attention to apartheid. Apartheid at the time was not something that most Americans or most people in the world understood. And the Ford Foundation wanted people to understand the implications of this form of government.
Yeah, and which is absolutely incredible. I mean, when you go back to 1953 and you look at where South Africa was at that time, nowhere near where we are now. I mean, it was a completely different country then.
It was a completely different world.
Yeah, true.
And what the Ford Foundation is interested in and was interested in at that time was bringing to light where injustice in the world was happening. One of our missions is to advance democratic principles and values. And what we saw in South Africa was the exclusion of millions of people who were the majority from participation in life and democratic process.
The office actually services Southern Africa as well, so it's not just South Africa itself. Just give us an overview of some of the work that the Ford Foundation does.
So the Ford Foundation is committed to reducing inequality and poverty and injustice. Our work in Southern Africa is primarily focused on South Africa, although we do some work in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. But our history has been to work with organizations, establishing organizations like the Black Lawyers Association, which has helped to create an entire cadre of black lawyers and leaders of the judiciary.
I mean, when you look at South Africa and you say the majority of your work is here in South Africa, you know, we like to believe that our country is considered one of the economic beacons of the continent, yet the work of the Foundation is still so necessary and it's essential when we look at the condition of our country. What type of projects do you take on now, 20 years on into democracy? Well,
first of all, it's important to just remember that South Africa is a young democracy. Enormous progress has been made in this country, and in many ways, South Africa is a beacon for those who wish and hope and dream of democracy. And what we do today is to support civil society, organizations like the Legal Resource Center, to ensure the participation, the full participation, particularly of those who are marginalized and vulnerable.
Yeah, this brings me to an event that you held yesterday, Making Dreams Come True, as well as the work of the Ford Foundation. Tell us what happened yesterday.
It was a remarkable day because we saw the vibrancy of this nation. We began the day with a conversation between people who are committed to the ideals of justice, but who are challenged with the everyday pursuit of democracy. We heard at the end of the day from youth leaders, from people who are working on issues of HIV, of women's rights, girls, and it was just a remarkable day of learning.
That's incredible. Any other events planned while you're here? I know you said you're moving off to Cape Town now, to UCT, to do some talks there as well.
Well, in fact, we had a remarkable event at the judiciary last evening. We were hosted there by the judiciary, and one of the stories that we heard was from the Chief Justice Musineki, who talked about how when he was an anti-apartheid leader, how he came to the Ford Foundation in New York and received a grant that made it possible for him and many others to be trained. So we'll be seeing people throughout the week whose lives we have touched and whose lives we continue to touch.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that the Ford Foundation does here in South Africa. The president of this foundation, Darren Walker, our guest here on Morning Live. Thanks for popping in.
Thank you very much, Leah.
All right.